settling in Canada is considered as one of the most excellent option. Canada provides one with a stable environment and an optimism of a brighter future. Pero hindi madali makakuha ng Canadian visa. Here at Mabuhay TV, we hope to guide our kababayan in guiding them in this complex and sometimes misunderstood process. Welcome at Mabuhay TV's Pinoy Chat. I'm your host for today, Lourdes Federis, and with me is Mr. Joel Duque of Duque Immigration Services, immigration consultant. Hi, Joel.
Hello, Lourdes. Thank you for having us here at the Mabuhay Pinoy Chat.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, right on. I look forward to this particular segment, and hopefully we could get a lot of our viewers from different parts of the world, and hopefully we could help them with their immigration matters.
Oh, this is very much awaited topic since we started Mabuhay TV.
Yes.
And very much requested, and I'm really looking forward to it as well. Because all of us are all immigrants here, and it's always changing. Like the time when I came here is different, when you came here is different.
Right.
The times yung mga tao that arrived at this year is different. So it's really important to be updated and get the right information, especially on the right people.
Of course, definitely for sure.
So my first question here is, can you tell us what you do as an immigration consultant?
Sure. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. We are authorized by the provincial and federal government to represent clients, foreign nationals from all over the world, whether with their immigration matters or immigration proceedings.
If I'm interested in moving to Canada, what are the basic things I need to know before I start my application?
Okay. When you do start your immigration application, firstly, you need to understand the intent of coming to Canada, whether you want to come in on a temporary basis or on a permanent basis. It's very important that you understand that your intent. Okay. So if you, for example, if you do want to come in Canada as a permanent resident, you might want to go ahead and figure it out first to see what type of immigration application that you are eligible to apply.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense because we have different intention why we move here. Is it for if you just want to study? Is it long term, short term?
Yes, and again, that is if you want to commit to the temporary basis. Okay, but if the purpose is permanent residence, there are several different applications that you basically would like to consider. Now, what would be the best? I think that's one of the questions that you ask. It really all depends. Firstly, let's look at the different immigration applications. Okay, in a permanent resident door, as I always told you, that there are two doors for you to get into Canada. One of the doors is basically permanent residence. The permanent residence, there's of course the sponsorship program. Okay, the sponsorship program basically you cannot. See, there's another misconception there because a lot of our kababayans thought that I could sponsor my aunt, I could sponsor my sister, I could sponsor my cousin. No, you cannot. You could only sponsor two of your family members. One would be your parents and grandparents. Actually, those are two, parents and grandparents. And the second one will be your spouse. So that's the family sponsorship program.
Yes.
So if you're thinking about coming to Canada and thinking that you are going to be sponsored by your aunt, it's not going to happen. You will fall into the category what they call the economic class application.
But then you have to have certain qualification.
That's right. So the economic class application is, of course, as you mentioned, that is always the law of Canada is a constant changing. So there is in economic class application, you might want to consider of the firstly the federal application, federal and provincial. Okay, another misconception is that a lot of people, when they have their application under the provincial, they thought it's directly into the immigration or their application is in immigration already. O may visa na ako, papunta na doon kasi nasa provincial namin na yung application ko. No. Under the economic class application, of course, there's the federal government and the provincial government. Now, under the federal government, there are certain immigration applications that a foreign national may apply, okay, to come into Canada. And of course, there is the provincial government. Under the provincial, there's the provincial nominee program.
Just to cut you off there,
yes.
Sorry, Joel. So, para lang maintindihan ng ano natin, the federal is the whole Canada,
Right.
And the provincial is the province of Manitoba. So so the province nominates.
Yeah.
So parang it's like a qualification. So parang beauty pageant yan. So
That's right.
i-screen niya yung the best qualified candidate, and then
Yes.
siya yung magsasabi sa buong Canada or sa federal na, ito yung gusto naming mag-move dito sa Manitoba.
Yes.
Is that how it...
Yes and no. Basically, the federal government, they have their own immigration application, as I mentioned. And then under the provincial government, they have that nominee program or nominee application. How it works is very simple. The province will nominate a certain individual based on point system.
Yeah.
So they have a specific point system. For instance, in Manitoba, they use 5 different factors. One would be your language ability. 2 would be your age, also your work experience, and your education. And of course, if you have relatives in Manitoba, that will be able to help or support your application, not sponsor that someone.
Yeah,
okay?
so to make it clear, sponsorship is different from
Yes.
moving in economic class. Like the only people you can sponsor are immediate family members. That includes your parents.
Yes.
And your child.
And again, another misconception there, because when they say the immediate family, there's a definition under the provincial government, and there's also a definition under the federal government, which is completely 2 different things.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's rather complex. So again, dealing with the key is to deal with the regulated Canadian immigration consultants or lawyers that are basically authorized by the provincial law society in order for them to practice immigration.
So that's the best, I think that's the most misconception talaga na they thought as long as you have relatives, I can move there, or...
No, not quite. So again, going back to the provincial government, just a little bit topic on that. So it goes, the first step is basically to see if you're, there's 2 questions, the main 2 questions that you should ask yourself is that, do you have family in Manitoba? You have to have connection. Okay, whether it's by family, by friends, or basically if you have studied here or you have worked here before, that will be your ties here. Secondly, it's by point system, so you have to have 60 points in order for you to first qualify for that first stage. Okay, so also the issue that I notice in our community specifically is that when they do pass those 2 steps, okay, what they do is that they would then go ahead and put in their application, not knowing there's actually a second step.
Yeah.
Okay, and the second step is another point system, but the point system is out of 1,000. Okay, so in other words, when you put in your application, and they would go back to the factors, your age and your language ability, your work experience, adaptability, and of course your education. At the end of that, they will give you points out of 1,000. So for instance, you receive a points, and the normal case scenario will be, a typical 30 years old, married, have a bachelor's degree, usually case scenario, right? Great language ability, because of course you're from the Philippines, and they have relatives here. Okay, usually they ballpark of 530 to 550 points. Is that good out of 1,000? Well, it's a yes or no. Okay, and most of the time they would basically they would wait for a long period of time, because the visa officer from the provincial side, they would basically, pretty much what they will do is they will open the door every month, and they will say, today the point is 575. Now if you have that points, then you can come in and apply. Compared to the people that immigrated back in 2013, they could just easily put in their application and they already apply. Not in this case. You have to be nominated first, or you have to be selected first at that time.
Yeah, kasi ako din, when I have my families back home, and those who know me, I've been here for 12 years. They always say, how, turuan mo kami, because, and then I would say, no, it's always different. Like, it's different when I moved here. So it's really important that they consult the right people, and also check the immigration website to know what, different ways and the process right now. But in your case, in the most cases that you handle, what is the most common now, the best way to enter or to get a Canadian visa?
Well, lately, as I mentioned, that we do have substantial percentage of immigration clientele from the Philippines. Honestly, I would recommend for them to have, multiple immigration application to come to Canada.
You can do that. You can
certainly
submit
for sure. Immigration application. The reason why, because again, if you're sitting on a 550 points, okay, to note that since the opening up the point system back in 2015, if I recall correctly, It's now currently the Manitoba provincial nominee. We're now a number 52 draw, so they opened the door 52 times, and 530 never been selected. The lowest points is 543. So if you have 550, which is difficult for our Kapwa Pinoy to have the 550 points, you're kind of like on a waiting period, you see. And as a matter of fact, in 2017, they never selected at all the 550. Ever.
Wow.
In 2018, they changed the law a little bit. So instead of basically having a door for you to come in as an overseas, they actually have a couple more doors. For example, if you have an express entry, you could also come in there.
Yeah.
You know, if you have an invitation from the provincial government, you can come in there. Why? I'm sure you've heard that some of the province, sometimes the Manitoba provincial government usually would go to Philippines, and they would go ahead and introduce themselves and go ahead and interview people, and they would give away invitation.
Yeah.
So if you have that invitation, you can come into that door. So in other words, when you come into to get into Manitoba, there are two doors. One is inside Manitoba, if you are studying here or if you are working here.
Yeah.
And secondly, if you are from overseas. But that overseas has been expanded on different streams. One, if you have a federal skilled workers, they call the federal skilled workers application or federal skilled workers program, which is an express entry under the federal government.
Yes.
Or two, if you have an invitation coming from the province, as I mentioned, and then the regular overseas.
So what do you mean by express entry? Does it mean that it's faster?
Yes, definitely. But for you to, honestly speaking, it's not really recommended for a lot of immigration practitioner would recommend it, but it all depends. It's case per case basis, depending basically if you have enough points. Also, at the same time, it's to qualify under the federal skilled workers program. It's not you need points. The point system that you would need is 67, not 65. Not 60, not 70, 67. See, the reason why, the expression of the Philippines that I've heard is, butas ng karayom para makapasok ka dun.
Yeah, nowadays, ganun talaga. So it's hard, it's really different. That's why, but then there's also lots of different ways now. Kasi before, although it's maluwag before, but there's only one way. But now it is kind of strict, but there's several ways. But you just need to educate yourself. That's why
you do, because it's very complex. So you could have a combination of express entry and Manitoba provincial nominee program. The difference, what would happen if you have a combination of both and you've been selected? So for example, 557 and you have 557. So now you've been invited to apply, and you have an express entry at the same time. Compare that to somebody who says a regular. So let's just say somebody has got 557, okay? Same point as you. He's got also selected, right? Yeah. So now both of you get selected, but you have an express entry. So now the difference between the two is the fact that what's going to happen is that yours will take the 6 months. The express entry, they always tell you that it's a 6 months program, and that is true. So yours is 6 months. This person will be 19 months. Those are the difference between the two. If you have now a combination of Manitoba provincial nominee nomination certificate and an express entry profile. But in order for you to get that express entry profile, not everybody can get in there. Not everybody.
It's really good to have.
It's good to have, definitely it is. So we would recommend it to specific clientele only on a case-per-case basis. So during the assessment and consultation that we would provide to our kababayans, we will be able to go ahead and determine to see if you are also eligible to go ahead with the combination of applications.
That's good to know. Like, we can go on and on with this one.
We could, yes, definitely.
But this one is a good start. It's basically, you need to know first if you are qualified, and if you have enough connection, qualification, and educate yourself, knowing what you have, your qualification, your connection, your resources as well. Then you can decide ano yung best way for you to enter, to get an
yes, ma'am. Definitely, for sure.
Okay, that's good to know. So for last one, how an immigration consultant can help our kababayan in this process? Like, what are the advantage in consulting or getting a service of an immigration consultant?
Right. Firstly, the assessment and consultation, which is, I think, is highly recommended. I've heard of people doing, Joel, do you do a 20-minute or 15-minute consultation assessment? I don't. I personally don't. There are others that do, but having to be as an immigration practitioner for the last 4 years, I find that I don't think that's the best way to do. As an example, we had a client that came to us and simply we did not do an immigration consultation and assessment with this person. And what happened was, at the end of the day, we are not able to figure out that the documentation is actually incorrect. Although she is fully qualified, but we run into more problems because the fact is her name, for example, is Mary Grace on one document, and then the other document is just Grace.
Yeah.
So that is a major, although you are fully qualified, now you could be delayed for another year or two. What happened if the law changes during that time?
Yes.
Tough luck, unfortunately.
So as an immigration consultant, it's best for them to do, before they do anything or before.
Yes.
Because they might do some damage under application.
Exactly.
Irreversible damage.
Yes.
They can't do anything anymore, not even though they already gone through all the process, tapos later on,
That's
they make that mistake.
Exactly. And that's another thing also that we find. A lot of our kababayans, they come to us on a second opinion that they have dealt with somebody before. And at the same time, we figured, well, thank you for dealing with us now. But to be honest with you, if we are to dealt with you in the beginning, we would not represent you at all. Why? Because you do not qualify. Or you only qualified on the first stage. And your points is way too low on the second stage. And so many of our kababayans have put their names under the Express Entry program, and they have 300 points. And 300 points has never been selected. Okay, under the provincial nominee, a lot of them has 400 to 500 points, less than 543. And honestly, 542 has never been selected for the last 52 draw.
Okay.
We are now number 52 draw, I think. Never once has been selected. So now they wasted their time, they wasted their money, they talked to their friends and relatives, I'm going to Canada, never gonna happen. Okay, and they're shocked. And the thing is, what's more important also is our kababayan here in Manitoba, they come to us for help and say, I would like to bring my nephew and my nieces here, and we have spent money already and send money back home for passport, for everything else. And it's not just one person, it would be a combination husband and wife with 3 kids. So the cost is huge, right? So by the time they get to us and we do an immigration assessment and personal comprehensive assessment and initial consultation, we find out that this client do not even qualify at all.
So the best way talaga is really to assess yourself first.
Yes.
How, if you're qualified, and if you're really interested, how can I qualify? So you can already take that necessary step to, to qualify and get start your application and eventually, get a Canadian visa. So thank you so much, Joel. And I think this is there's a very big topic.
It is.
But it's a good start. Let's start off with the basic. Assess first how you can qualify. If you're qualified, what are the ways to enter, and what are depends, of course, on your qualification.
That's right.
The people that they need to talk to, and of course, best ways really to consult and licensed immigration consultant.
That's
so
right.
would you like to invite our kababayan, if they have any other questions and how they can reach you?
Sure. Firstly, going back, just wanted to add a little bit about the personal comprehensive assessment and initial consultation that we provide. What it is simply that it will allow us to determine which particular immigration application that you will be qualified to apply for, or you're eligible to apply for. Whether you want to apply under the federal application or a combination of both on federal and provincial. Or perhaps maybe it's best for you to come in first under the temporary residence, and when you're inside Canada, then apply for permanent residence there. So those are what we could do under that personal comprehensive assessment and initial consultation. So we would love to invite you. Please contact us. We are 24 hours on Facebook, and we're more than happy to go ahead and assist our kababayan from all over parts of the world.
So thank you so much again, Joel.
Thank you for having us.
And we'll look forward to a more, interesting topic. And we'll hope to see you again at Mabuhay TV's Pinoy Chat. Maraming salamat po sa mga nanood sa ating mga previous episode at Mabuhay TV's Pinoy Chat. And we hope to bring you more interesting topic in the coming episodes. Thank you, and I'll see you again.
Thank you for having us.